some Riz Yogs. It's me, Rizo, aka Amelia, aka a queen, aka a grain of sand. So I wanted to start seated today. I wanted to focus today on, I want to do a whole series on manifestation. And the first of these series is really just us getting into a place where we can kind of breathe with flow, and so like kind of almost like sweep out the energies and the clutter of the brain, so we can even be in a place where we could plant seeds to grow. I did want to start with a little story though, because on Friday I was able to come. I'm on the coast of Oregon right now after flying in from New York. I turned around in the morning and came down to the coast to see my son Tennyson do some tricks on the back of a horse after a week of horse camp. And I was reminded that a year ago, it's summer solstice, I was having a moment where I was like having a mini ritual and invited Tennyson in, and wanted to encourage him to kind of understand some of the ideas about manifestation, or like the idea that you can speak aloud, that speaking aloud wishes or goals is the first step into creating or seeing those things in the world. And so we lit a candle and we lit some ethically harvested sage, and I spoke about wanting to make this art project, and I said, now you go. And he said, I want to shoot an arrow off of the back of a moving horse. And part of my adult, constricted brain was like, oh, he doesn't quite understand that, like, it's better to have like things that you could actually make happen, and I'm like, oh, just accept it and encourage it. And I was like, yeah, that's a great one, shooting an arrow off the back of a horse. And then I think it was a week later, my mom called and said that this horse camp that I wanted Tennyson to go to is actually happening. Again, it was a year ago, so camps were on and off, maybe not happening. And she was like, they're just gonna do it masked and outdoors, but they feel like they could do it. I was like, oh, that's great. And so he came down to the coast, and he met one of the teachers at a park before the camp. And he mentioned to her, I really want to shoot an arrow off of the back of a horse. And she said, I think we can make that happen. She got some bows and arrows. And by the end of the week of horse camp, we were sent a video of him shooting an arrow off of a moving horse through a ring. And it just was one of those moments where I was confronted with my own kind of like crusty inability to see that was manifestation. And as an adult, I was like, that's, poppycock. How could you make that happen? And that he was in the place closer to divinity to say, this is what I want. And then obviously we take steps in the world to manifest. Like, he took the step to speak to that teacher. I mean, the magnificence of the horse camp opening is one bit of wonder in the world. But when we take these moments to articulate what we want to create, the seeds we want to plant, the flowers we want to see bloom, we're just one step closer to making that vision clear to us and safer to speak aloud. And as we speak it aloud, we meet people that help us manifest. So it's a word that's getting thrown around a lot, and obviously you can't just sit back and dream. There's action that has to come. But I think the first step is to get into a place where we're comfortable enough with the flow state of breath and the cleansing of the clutter of the mind, and therefore kind of disconnection from the negativity that comes naturally into the mind, that we're able to see the positive sides of creating in the world. Okay, so that's my little speech, and let's just take a moment to close our eyes and get grounded. And as you breathe, letting the body be breathed by the air and feeling the support of the earth that is always there for you as a support, even when you feel like you're a wandering soul if you're traveling in a strange land, you still got this support, this net of the earth and the force of gravity that's holding you. You're not floating in space. So feeling the support of the earth and the skin upon the ground, however you're seated in this cross-legged position or in hero's pose with your knees folded under you. Sit for a moment like a yogi, part of the manifestation that I believe in is kind of like there's a key part of faking it till you make it, and that's not something to be ashamed of ever, because as we grow we need to kind of assume postures, and you see children do this. You see kids assuming this kind of growth beyond their years when they're emulating adults. And so fake the posture of a yogi. That means like let your collarbones be wide and let your shoulder blades rest on your back, and let that diagonal of the hip to the shoulders be long. Feel that X in your body. Have that easy floating neck. And feel the breath in your body. And then for one moment, I want you to bring to your mind something that you have immense gratitude for. We're living incredibly privileged lives in this first world existence that I believe everybody listening to me on this platform is living. It's just important to take these moments where we really feel the ease of our existence, the running water that comes out of taps, the fact that we have soft beds and blankets. But you can go even more to like personal moments of gratitude for people in your life that give you support or joy or kindness. And letting your whole body breathe in that gratitude. And then with that gratitude becomes our kind of watering can. As we infuse the gratitude into the breath. And with our breath, we regenerate all the cells in our body. Taking your next inhale into the center of the brain, behind the eyes, breathing into the pineal gland, which is directly under where your soft spot would be as you had as an infant, or the top of your head, or which is also called the final chakra. And as you breathe, feeling that ultraviolet light enter your body. And as we assume the posture of the yogi, we also assume the higher part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that is always there, that is beyond ego, that is beyond the rat race of success, beyond the pursuit of money or transitory things, the part of us that connects to every human being because it is the hum of the divine. So as we breathe in that ultraviolet light into the pineal gland in the center of the brain, we're charged with the higher side of ourselves, which is the true side. And in every moment, and every encounter, and every argument, and every conflict, yearning for this space that is the true self. The self that's not over-identified with the lower self, which is not false. We are closely identified with our lower self, which includes our roles, our gender, our sexual persuasion, our job. These are all the parts of the self that we move in the world as a puffery of part of our identity, but it is not the true self. The true self is beyond that, beyond the identifications that you would describe to anyone at a cocktail party. And the seeds of our greater manifestations, which are connected to purpose, are harvested in the true self. So not the self that is on that hamster wheel of status, money, ego, needing other people to like us or approve of us, or needing certain people to approve of us. And let's take 2 3-part breaths as we breathe that white ultraviolet light into the lower belly, all the way into the lower belly, bringing it into the mid belly, into the center of the body, into the chest, and behind the collarbones, and holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, slowly releasing behind the shoulder blades, out of the chest, out of the upper belly, out of the lower belly, and holding that exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, and as slow as you can, easily filling up, sipping that air into the lower belly, the mid belly, the chest, behind the collarbones, holding that giant pocket of air for 2, 1, and releasing behind the collarbones from the chest, solar plexus area, down to the stomach and the lower belly, and releasing that breath. Victory breath. And slowly opening the eyes, bringing the outer world in, soft eyes, transitioning into our hands and knees position. Hands pressing into the ground, knees into the ground, shoulder blades on the back. And let's just kind of move around here, exploring where the weight goes into the hands and then back into the knees, into the hands and back into the knees. Tuck the toes here, and then for a moment, lift up the knees, pressing into the hands, stomach sucks in, the navel comes to the spine, and then releasing that down, pressing back into child's pose. And then coming forward again into that hands and knees, and we'll come into a little cat-cow. Coming first into like a Halloween cat, the navel comes up to the spine, the shoulder blades spread, and then coming forward into a cow, letting the tongue come out. Eyes open wide, reveling in the fact that we're practicing at home as we come back into the cat. And it doesn't matter what we look like in this moment. We can play the fool, and then as we're going back and forth in our own timing. And we can look silly for a moment, and then maybe take the strength that comes from taking any moment to look silly and letting that infuse our own lives amongst being witness and not minding if you look silly. All right, let's take this into a circle. So the starting cow, so your head and your tailbone are kind of curving towards the sky, and your nipples are gazing towards the mat, and then you bring your head and your tail to the left. Then you bring your head and your tail into that cat position, so down towards the mat, and then bring it to the right, head and tail, making a big circle here. Attaching a crown to the top of your head, like a glorious unicorn, and making a circle, also putting it on your tail. So you're a crayon unicorn with a crayon tail, and you're making big circles on the butcher paper in front of you and behind you. And reverse the circle. So we'll go to the left so you know how to reverse. And notice the parts that you're skipping over, that perhaps you're slowing down or speeding up. And you don't need to really change it, but it's good to notice. And now this free form, just coming into bended arms and cat, and stretching out in the way that you know that the intuition of your body knows. And intuition is also something that we have divorced our senses from. And it's so interesting to get quiet and get into the place. We use the yoga to yoke the body and the mind to get quiet, so we can actually hear the intuition of what we actually want to manifest. What do we want to bring into the world? Where do we see our purpose aligning with our actions? How can that come in? Oh, it feels so good to just move organically like that. Okay, tucking the toes once again. We're gonna lift those knees, create some tapas a little here, lift the knees up, and then lower down, come back to child's pose. From child's pose, we're gonna snake forward into a cobra. So snake the body coming into a cobra. Whatever level you want, you can do a lower one. I wanted to come to a higher level. And press back into all fours, into child's pose. Once again, snaking forward, bringing the nose along the mat if we can, or along the ground. In some of your cases, into that cobra. And coming down onto your belly to come into the three cobras as we raise up. We're going to fingertips on the ground outside where the mat would be. And nose to the ground, and then shoulder blades under the back as you press your toenails into the ground, suck the inner thighs together, and then gaze up, and your heart comes forward. And really, this is a beautiful metaphor of sharing your heart with the world. And then come back down, and on an inhale, we raise back up, press into your fingertips if you can, a little bit higher, and gaze back down. Once more, up, inhale. And then let's come back up one more time. And then as we're up, let's bring the hands alongside the hips. Tuck, and again, you're tucking the tailbone a little bit. So as you tuck the tailbone and you squeeze the legs together, that becomes more of a base. The toenails help root to rise. And then shoulder blades come together. If you can, interlace your hands behind to get a greater opening there. It's wonderful. And then swing the arms out and forward, and let's bring the legs up. So everything is up off the ground in a big back bend, and then release it down and bring the left cheek to the ground. Lie out. Coming back once again to those fingertips onto the earth, shoulder blades onto the back, gaze forward, and then tuck the tailbone. So you're using your tailbone to root there. Toenails are pressing into the ground. And then we will raise up the arms alongside the hips, interlace them if that's accessible for you. And right with, is that other cheek to the ground. Did I say left? Yeah, I did say left. Right cheek to the ground. Release out. Excellent. Hands and knees. Just come to our first downward dog of the day. For me, unless you woke up at 6 a.m., did a nice flow. I mean, I guess you could be doing this class at any time, so who knows. Shoulder blades onto the back, pressing the feet into the ground. My heels are up, but I'm always aiming for them to come down towards the earth. Pressing every finger into the ground, shoulder blades onto the back once again. And let's take that tail, like imagine you really had a tail. Let your crayon tail grow longer and stick it up into the sky. Really finding that arch in the back of that tilt forward. Nice. Coming forward into plank. Let's hold this plank for a little bit. And let's rock forward and back on our toes here and come back into downward dog. Let's take the left hand to the right shin. So you're going to grab the back of the calf and you're going to peek through. Hey you, hey. Peek through. Find that nice opening. Bring the hand back down and let's bring the right hand to the left calf. Reaching through. Nice. Bend the knees. Let's find that backward and forward again. So your knees are bent and you're finding that the weight comes forward into your hands and then back into your legs. Forward into your hands and back into your legs. Straighten the legs, come into downward dog again. Come forward to plank. And let's lower all the way down slowly as your navel resists the gravity coming up. Press back into child's pose. And sit up on your knees. I'm going to face you guys. Let's sit down again and let's open up the side body. So come into a Sukhasana simple cross-legged pose with the right foot in front. And we'll reach out with the left hand, opening up the side body as our right hand comes over. Finding the breath into the intercostals there. And then gaze up slightly as you open up the whole side body there. And if the thoughts come to your daily life in this moment, remember just bringing back to the breath, the focus of this moment being to yoke the body to the mind. So the mind's not running away, but rather staying with the breath. If you can, lower the elbow to the ground. Find that deeper opening on the top of the hip. And then come back up. Change the cross of the legs. Reach out onto the right arm. Left arm comes over. Really breathing into the intercostals, the side ribs. Noticing if you're bending forward or backwards. Really just going for a side body stretch. Feeling the breath open up those ribs. And this tilts the head and the chest a little bit up towards the side. And if it's available for you, lowering that elbow to the ground. Wow. Nice. Coming back up. Interlace the hands behind the back here. Again, opening, pressing the elbows straight. Lower the head in this position to the chest, chin to the chest. Bring the head over to one side, chin back to the chest, over to the other side. Hug the self. Oh, let's grab our shoulder blades in the back. If you can really grab your shoulder blades, that's nice here. And let's just have a moment of hugging ourselves. So maybe hugging it's weird to say the word lower because I don't think it's the false self or it's diminutive, but maybe lower is okay. But hugging the lower self, the side of ourselves that is tender and that is caught in moments of egoic identity that are not serving our truer selves. And if we get too upset at that, then we're really caught in the web. So hugging the self and having a moment of mothering the sweet self, mothering the tenderness. And it's through our tenderness that we are actually ever able to grow. So being grateful for the tenderness and not running away from this moment. Just actually have a moment where you're like loving yourself. I love you. All right. Arms stretched out wide. Come into tall. Interlace the hands here, and let's open up the tops of the hands as we raise it up here. Arms out wide again. Let's come into eagle pose. I want to do this pose later, so I want you to understand it here. The right hand is going to go underneath, and then we're going to bend, and then bring the arms together. So eagle pose. So nice to open up the shoulder blades there. And then in this pose, I want you to press the elbows out, lower the shoulders, and press the hands together. So you're pushing with the hands, you're pressing the elbows away from the self, from the body, and you're not bringing your shoulder blades up. Release that, arms open. Let's try the other side. So the right side is on top, crossing, pressing into the hands, shoulders lower, elbows press away from the body. Eagle pose. Nice. Let's do one more hug of the self. Yeah, oh yeah. What if like someone was behind you and you know that whole trick where you like look like you're making out? Like you're really just doing yourself. Like if someone was behind you and they thought that you were making out with somebody. It's pretty fun. Okay, let's go back to hands and knees. Now that I just made out with myself, I'm gonna take off my sweatshirt. Okay, so hands and knees, tuck the toes. Let's come into a little bit more of a heated flow as we come to downward dog. Okay, we'll do a little bit of sun salutation action. Bend the knees, step tippy toes all the way to the front. Forward fold, release the head. Let the water drip off of your long ebony hair as it goes into the lake. You're the lady of the lake.
And slowly roll up, one vertebrae at a time. Oh, yes, that's so good. Stacking the bones.
Arms raise up towards the sky and reach up, touching the fingertips above the head, bringing the prayer position, touching your forehead, that third eye, and then touching your heart with your palms. Let's connected to an intention today. So intentions are really tied to manifestation. Like if we infuse our action with intention, we are manifesting that thought. So the intention doesn't have to be the manifestation of what you want to make in the greater world. And also manifestations can be to find more ease or grace or search out joy or let joy live in the body or not be in a place where we're constantly searching for how we are our own worst nightmare of our identity, but rather searching for the joy and ease and interactions of how we can bring light to other people. So yeah, manifestation can doesn't have to be like a project. It can be, but it also can be manifesting ease. So connect to the intention that you want to infuse as a bodily somatic prayer for this next 20 minutes of movement. And once you've firmed up that intention, breathing in, letting it infuse your body as your arms extend out, reach up, touch, and then we swan dive forward into a forward fold.
Letting the head shake out no, head shake out yes. Press, bending the knees and stepping back into the plank position, holding that plank position and coming through our first chaturanga, so lowering the elbows, coming forward into upward dog, or it could be a baby cobra, tucking the toes under, coming back into downward dog. Left leg rises, open up the hip. Really stretch open that hip. Press it back. Square off the hips. Bring the knee to the nose. Step the foot forward into a lunge. We've got our first lunge here. We'll bring this lunge down into a soft as ghee expression of the lower lunge. You might want to pad your knee here if you need that. Press your hands onto the top of your knee. Let your hips come forward. And in this position, let's really work with bringing the, tucking the pelvis so you can really bring the hip flexors up. So sucking in that navel, letting the chest be proud, and bringing that whole position with glory into the arms being raised. Raise it up. Bring the arms back down, and let's straighten that front leg as we bring our head to knee in this. I can't remember. Some people call this a runner's pose, but I can't remember what it's called. Head to knee. Straightening the left leg, and then coming back into that lunge, tucking the toes behind you, letting that length be on the knee is off the ground for this lunge. feeling the energy from the head back into the heel. And then from here we're going to come just into prasarita, so a wide-legged forward fold to come to the other side. So in the wide-legged forward fold, let's experiment with the arms in front, like almost like a really wide downward dog. And you can also experiment a little bit with bending one knee at a time. And then let's bring the arms through the legs and the head closer to the ground. As we come back, hands under the shoulder blades, let's bring the left arm up to the sky, suck the navel to the spine. Now notice if your hips are coming with you to the left. Now counteract that by making the hips level, and if you want to bring your hand to your sacrum to really feel like if you're doing that, and then bring the arm back up, so you really feel that opposite action, so your hips are resisting the twist. Bring the arm down, just bring the right arm up. Same thing on this side. Yes. I do a little bit less on this side. And bring it down. And then walking over onto the other side, the other lunge. I'm just giving my hair time. Coming into that runner's lunge on the other side. I'm feeling that long line of energy from your head back into your foot. And then lowering the knee. Into our lower lunge. Oh yeah. Bringing the hands slowly up onto the right knee. As you tuck that tailbone and really have that lift out of your quads. Finding the breath. Bringing the hands back down. Again, raising the knee up off the ground. Fingertips on the earth. Finding that long line from the head to the back of the heel. And then lowering your knee back down again. Let's bring the arms up into the full expression of this pose. Lower lunge with the arms extended up towards the sky. Bring the arms back down. Straighten the right leg in the head to knee pose. This is baby Hanuman, that's what it is. So this is the first step of a split. So really you're really doing a baby split. You can experiment here with your foot pointed or flexed. It's such a different reality of sensation. And that's really what we're in for. What we're in for is sensation. The sensation of the body, the breath being infused by the body, and a break from the torrent of the mind of the tyrant, the torrential tyrant of the mind. In this baby Hanuman. Nice. Coming back into the lower lunge. Tuck the toes. Coming into that high lunge. And coming into prasarita, wide-legged fold. Stretching out again into letting the arms come wide and in front of you, really feeling that stretch. Letting the hips go wide, pressing into the feet here, pulling into the feet. You feel the scissoring of the legs together while you're pushing into the ground. Bringing the arms underneath the body. Once again, let's bring that twist up. We'll do the right side first, looking up to the sky, and then down, and then the left side up, and down, bend into one knee, bend into the other. Walk over to the left side, into that left leg lunge. Step back into plank, chaturanga. All the way down to the mat, into a cobra, or if you're feeling frisky, up to the upward dog. Tuck the toes under, downward dog. 3 breaths here. Bend the knees, look to the hands. Let's jump our feet to our hands. If you don't feel like jumping, you can always walk. Forward fold, release the head. Reverse swan dive, all the way up. Inhale, exhale, let's bring this into a little quicker movement. As we inhale, reach up, swan dive down, exhale, breath to movement. Find the breath as you inhale, gaze up, bring the heart into the world. Exhale, jump or step back, plank, exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, arch, cobra, lower, cobra or higher. Press back, exhale, downward facing dog. Left leg lifts up, it licks the sky, touch the sky, bend the knee. Exhale, inhale, straighten the hips. Exhale, knee to nose. Press back, 3-legged dog. Inhale, over to the left shoulder or left elbow. Press back. And to the right elbow. Press back. Inhale. Step it through the hands, coming into that lunge. Pressing into the feet. We step up. We bring the arms up into a high lunge. Crescent pose. Really reaching up out of the hips into that long crescent pose. Opening into warrior 2. Reverse your warrior, so left arm comes up to the sky. Opening up into that side body. And then bring your elbow to your left thigh and your right arm over your head as you gaze up to the sky. Coming back into warrior 2. Flipping it back into crescent pose. And now let's bring those Garudasana or eagle pose arms into this pose. So the left arm is going to come underneath. We did this seated, and now we're just going to do it in this pose. The shoulders are on the back. Remember the pressing of the hands together, and the elbows are pressing forward. And then you're just going to bring this whole package into like a little bit of an arch. Nice. And then let's bring it wide into warrior 2 again. Reverse the warrior. Open up. And left elbow to the thigh. Side angle pose. Nice. Warrior 2 once again. Cartwheel the arms to the ground, to that lunge, lower lunge. Step back, chaturangas. Upward facing or cobra. Tuck the toes, downward facing. Find the breath here. 3 big breaths. Bend the knees, look to the hands, walk or jump, feet to the hands, straighten the legs, suck in the belly, release the head, reverse swan dive up. Oh, bring the prayer to the head, to the chest. Arms up, look up, exhale, down. Release the head. Step back into place. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog or cobra. Downward facing dog. Right. Left leg lifts up. Bend the knee. Open up. Straighten out. Square the hips. Bring the knee to the nose. Exhale. Inhale, push back. Did we do this leg already? Left leg. I can't remember. And to the right. Shy, so I didn't do this leg already. Okay, back into, I've got a little bit of a cold, which is affecting my left and right. Let's come back into downward dog. Let's lift up the right leg. Oh yeah, now we open, this is what we haven't done. Open up. Okay, square it off. Bring the right leg into the knee. Press back. Left elbow, right knee, touch, press back. Right elbow, press back. Bring it on through. Woo. Nice. Stepping up into a high lunge. Beautiful expression of this pose. Let someone take your photo in this pose as you bend your knee in a 90 degree and you let the energy shoot out your heel. So nice. So nice. Okay, opening up. Warrior two. Reverse your warrior. Open up into that side body. And then let's do side angle pose as the right elbow comes to the left knee. You stretch out the left arm over the head. Coming back in to warrior two. And then coming back into that crescent pose. And this time the left is underneath. We come into eagle pose. The shoulder blades spread, the elbows press forward. Finding that eagle pose as we press into the ground, press the elbows away from the body. Lean back slightly, straighten the back leg. Releasing that arms out wide, coming back into warrior two. Reverse your warrior. Right arm flips up, paints the sky, left, and then the right arm comes to the left leg to side angle pose as you reach your left arm over. Coming back into warrior two. Cartwheel the arms down, pressing back, plank, lower chaturanga, inhale, upward, tuck the toes, downward. 5 breaths here. Watch the breath, let thoughts go like clouds in the sky. Bending the knees, gazing towards the hands, stepping or walking, hands, feet to the hands, forward fold, let the head drop. Navel to spine, reverse swan dive all the way up, stretching out of your legs, to the touching the ether or the sky, getting some of that cloud juice, bringing the hands to the head, to the chest. Once again, reaffirming your intention. Perfect. And now let's come to seated. So we're gonna bend all the way down. If you can, come into seated without using your hands. Let's actually try that. A couple of these rocking and rolling, where we're trying to experiment with coming up out of seated without using your hands. So roll back and then reach forward. This might be hard without a mat. Give it a go. This little experiment as we transition from the ground to standing. And then come back to the ground. Let gravity hold you. Lay back, hug your knees in. Oh, bringing the knees in deliciously. Hug the left knee in and let the right knee extend onto the ground. Let the thumb of the left hand find the hip crease and let that be an anchor as you bring the knee of the left leg closer to the right shoulder. Yeah. And then hug that back in and bring the left knee towards the left shoulder. Let's do a half happy baby. So grabbing the foot, bottom of the foot, in like you're stamping out, like standing on the ceiling. So the foot is as flat as possible. You're grabbing on the arch of the foot, and let the left leg bend and the right thigh come as close to the ground and straight as possible. Bringing that back into the center. If you can grab the foot with both hands and come to any sort of, the closest the knee can come to the chest. So we're you really feel that opening behind the knee. So you're in a 90 degree. And then let's bring the knee over to the right side into an easy twist. And let the gaze come over to the left as you breathe into the twist. I think this pose has sensation for us all. Try not to let the hips hike up, but rather creating more space from the hip to the shoulder. Bringing the knee back in the chest. And releasing that onto the ground. Oh yeah, Lord. Lord, love, the love of the Lord of love. I feel that in my hips. Let's bring the right knee into the chest. Hugging it to the right and hugging it to the left. Coming into that half happy baby, grabbing with the right hand into the inner instep of the foot as you let the left leg just really lengthen on the ground, and you bring the knee as much as possible into the armpit as it's kind of standing on the ceiling. Emotions are stored in the hips, so it's really good for us to spend some time really working these moments out. And then bringing the knee close to the chest as possible, and thinking about, it's like almost like thinking about straightening the leg, right? But you're kind of working on a different, I start to shake in this pose. It's like you're not thinking about hiking because you're opening the tiny connectors from your glutes to your hamstrings, and then opening behind the knee. Okay, nice, release that, let's hug that knee in. Bring the whole knee package to the left as we find this easy twist. Luxuriating in the breath of the body and the idea that you're doing exactly what you need to be doing right now. And what you're doing is a service to all of those around you. Because you're able to exist in the world with more equanimity, more ease, more flow. And as we water this earth, this is first step of manifestation, by focusing on just making the ground more fertile. Not even into the deeper parts of manifestation, but just starting from where all the flowers and bamboo shoots start. The fertile ground, which isn't clouded with the weeds of the thoughts of the ego and the shoulds and the material world, really. Bringing the knee back into the chest. Hugging that knee. Oh my goodness gracious. And releasing it into the ground. Let's do 2 bridges, and then we'll just go into a final relaxation. So standing the feet. Feet are grounded into the earth. The head is grounded into the earth. The hands are grounded into the earth as you press the hips up and create that long line from your hips to the back of your skull. Your neck isn't pushing back, but more the back of your skull. And if you feel like you could get this first pose all right, let's wiggle our shoulder blades underneath us and interlace our hands. A lot of nice back openers today. Pressing the feet into the ground and lift your hips a little bit higher. And let's pump it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the shoulder blades, lower everything down. And let's do 5 press-ups as we raise our hands above our head. So pressing into bridge as you raise your arms above your head. And then inhale, and then exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Hug the knees into the chest. Once more, let's have a moment of love towards the self, the lower self and the higher self. Loving the lower self so that the higher self, the self that is beyond identifications in the material world, the self that is only interested in the good, the compassion, the loving, the light that inspires others to step out of their own patterns and shadows and into their own creations into this world. Loving both sides of ourselves as we release into a corpse pose. And we practice death. Taking a deep breath into every cell of the body. Holding that breath at the top of most fully you can. And sighing it out your mouth. Let's do that one more time. Let's do a voice sigh. So really breathe in as full as you can, holding the breath, and then let this big sigh where you really let any stress or concern release. As we rest for a few moments in silence, letting yourself lie in warm sand. Feeling the peace that you've carved out for yourself. The silence. If thoughts arise, touching upon them, and then letting them go. Letting the body be breathed. Releasing all the bones. Letting your eyeballs sink into your head. And then slowly rolling over to one side into a fetal position. When the time is right, curling up into that position. Pressing to a seated pose. Where we started, and feeling the difference of how you feel now versus how you felt when we started. Finding the gratitude for that. Softly opening the eyes, bringing the arms
prayer position above the head. Bring that prayer to your head, let it be blessed through the third eye, and then bringing that to your heart, yoking the mind, body, heart, spirit into this moment where we carve out an hour for ourselves to be in our body, to separate ourselves from the hustle and bustle of what we should be doing, and rather tending to the fertile earth of our own souls, so that we can then take the next step of articulating the seeds of what we want to give out to the world. Thank you so much. It is a great honor to move and be with you. Namaste. I bow to you. The light in me bows